Commissioner Josh, would you mind doing the pledge for us?
Be glad to. Please stand and face the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have invocation by Pastor Keith Capizzi from Club Zion.
Let's pray. Father, we thank you. We bless you, Lord, for the privilege, the honor that you've given us to come before you and seek your wisdom, your discernment, your insight to lead this community. Lord, I pray for our leaders here, our commissioners, our mayor, city manager, city attorney, and clerk, Lord, that all of them will work together in unison, Lord, for the good of our community. I thank you for those who have attended. I pray that the input would be all done decently in order to give just a good, mature look for our community. We thank you, Lord God, for this privilege. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. City Clerk, roll call.
Commissioner Jackson.
Here.
Commissioner Hutcherson.
Here.
Commissioner Tomati.
Here.
Vice Mayor Williams.
Here.
Mayor Capizzi.
Here. Get somebody motion for the agenda.
Move to approve the agenda with H1 pulled.
Second.
Motion for agenda with H1 pulled. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes 5-0. We have a special presentation. It's a proclamation for the ancient order of the Hibernians. And I'll attempt to read that. I've got something in my eye, so I appreciate that.
That's fine, Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I'll read the end if you want the therefore.
Is Keith Reynolds here? Please come to the podium in case you want to make a comment afterwards.
Thank you.
Can you hear me? No. Well, it's not because I don't have a microphone. Whereas in 1776, nearly 300,000 Irish nationals had emigrated to the American colonies to play a crucial role in America's war for independence. And whereas 5 signers of the Declaration of Independence were of Irish descent and 3 signers were Irish born. And whereas 22 presidents have proudly proclaimed their Irish American heritage. And whereas in 1792, Irish born James Hoban provided the architectural plans for the White House and served as one of the supervising architects for the construction of the Capitol. And whereas Irish-born Commodore John Barry was recognized by the United States Congress in September of 2002 as the first flag officer of the United States Navy. And whereas Commodore John Barry fought the last sea battle of the American Revolution off the west coast of Florida. And whereas in 1813, Captain Oliver Perry, an Irish American, achieved the major naval victory in the Battle of Lake Erie. And whereas in 1942, the Sullivan brothers made the ultimate sacrifice for democracy and freedom during the naval battle of Guadalcanal, and later had the destroyer USS Sullivan commissioned in their memory. And whereas the Irish first came to Spanish La Florida in the 1500s, first as missionaries and mercenary soldiers, and then as planters, traders, businessmen, doctors, and administrators. And whereas Friar Richard Arthur, an Irish-born priest from Limerick, who was appointed parish priest for St. Augustine in 1597 and ecclesiastical judge of Florida, of La Florida, established the first public school in America and opened it to both boys and girls of all races. And whereas Andrew Jackson, whose family came from County Antrim, served as Florida's military governor following its acquisition by the United States. And whereas Irish Americans since America's inception have provided and continue to provide leadership and service to this nation's political, business, and religious establishments. Now, therefore, I
can read that. Yeah. Now therefore, I, Keith Capizzi, Mayor of the City of Cocoa Beach, Florida, do hereby proclaim March 25th as Irish American Heritage Month in the City of Cocoa Beach and urge all citizens to join me in honoring those Americans who gave their lives in securing the blessings of our liberty. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, City Council members. My name is Keith Reynolds. I'm the National Director of the Southeast for the United States with the Ancient Order of Hibernians. I'm also the Vice President of the state of Florida. Today, President Trump joined Governor DeSantis and 80 other cities and towns in Florida declaring the month of March Irish American Heritage Month. Thank you very much for recognizing the contributions of Irish American to our great nation tonight. Thank you, everyone.
And I have your proclamation here if you'd like to come. Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
God bless you.
Thank you.
My great-grandma was Irish. Capizzi's Italian. That's the other side. Okay. All right. Any public comments about items that are not on the agenda? All right. And then also, I just want to make another announcement that if you want to speak tonight, because we do have a lot of people, and it's probably a lot of people have a lot of stuff to say, I would like you to put a speaker card in and just give it to the city clerk here. Normally, I let you just come up and speak, but because there's probably a lot of discussion, it's a lot easier for the city clerk if you put a card in beforehand. Yeah, if you got to come up here.
Not right now.
That's all right. This is about items that
It is public comment, yes.
yeah, items about not on the agenda.
The new speed hump when you first get into Cocoa Beach, that needs like a warning sign. I know there's some signs, but like, yeah, that's just like right in the middle of the highway, and it's pretty high. I know that there was an issue, and it was like Indian Atlantic where they added one, and then cars were scraping. It was a whole deal, and they had to cut it down a little bit. That's just, yeah, when I hit that thing with the car, I was like, wow, okay. So they put a speed hump in the middle of the highway. That's cool.
Yeah, and could you state your name and address?
Marcus Grantham, and I live in Indian Harbor Beach.
Okay. Yeah, I agree. It's a 15-mile-an-hour speed bump on a 30-mile-an-hour road. It's weird. So,
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right.
40, no problem.
All right. Staff reports.
Okay, so following up on that comment, at the beginning of the week, I had contacted FDOT to discuss the speed hump, whatever they're calling it.
Speed jump.
And I got a little help from our lobbyists, Jason Steele. I eventually got to talk to John Tyler. John Tyler is the District 5 Director of FDOT. We're in District 5. We had a good conversation about that speed bump. And my comments to him were, first of all, someone made a comment here, there's no consistency in the messaging with all of these things. In my prior life, I was an engineer for New Jersey DOT for many years. This would never happen up there. These little things are experiments. You know, they do this and then they're willing to very quickly come back and make changes to it. All that being said, I have a meeting set up Monday afternoon with them, with a number of their representatives, and the mayor is invited, our staff, but my request of the commission is I'm not really sure what we want to do with that. What do you want me to do? I need direction. I don't know. Do you want to get rid of it? Do you want it modified? I don't know.
I would like to get rid of it, honestly.
Okay. I'll just say, when these were proposed, I've said this before, first of all, there were supposed to be 16 of them, so we got that greatly reduced. But they were supposed to be what they called traffic tables, which was a 20-foot section at a 1 to 12, 1 inch rise per foot to a flat section for 20 feet, and then a gradual slope back down. That was what was sold to us as a traffic table, where it wouldn't really, give you a jolt or anything. You'd just be like you're going up a little rise, you go across a flat spot at the length of your vehicle, and then you go down the other side, just to kind of give you a little awareness. That's not what they did. So I would like for you to pass that on in your meeting as to why did we get these little short speed bumps versus the traffic table that was advertised.
But would the rest of the commission also like to get the speed bumps removed?
Yeah, I definitely want to remove, my feedback, I don't know if I'm going to reiterate it, when they were here briefing for our suggestions, was there wasn't any consistency all down A1A, right? So they were proposing the speed bumps for us. Satellite Beach had the middle flags that have been demolished. I think they did this in Indiana, and then it was gone a month later, so it didn't seem like there was any consistency. So to me, if the overall objective is to get A1A slower, I don't think having multiple different design features helps. So I ultimately like to get rid of them, but have some consistency on, but obviously they took our recommendations just as guidance. They went ahead and did it anyways.
Right. I concur with you, Jeremy. Through Satellite Beach and Indian Harbor is 35 miles an hour. You get to Patrick, it's 45 miles an hour. Then it drops to 40 in what I call South Cocoa Beach. And then all of a sudden, you've got a speed bump. Why do you need a speed bump if you have a sign? And to 30, and then it goes back up to 35. And
It's actually 30 in Cocoa Beach.
Well, it's 30, that's what I'm saying. It's 30 in Cocoa Beach, then it's up to 35
At First Street.
after Minuteman. Right.
After the roads come back together.
At 4.
No, it's at Minuteman.
No.
Yes, they put the sign back up. It's fact.
But your point is, we're all.
My point is it's all over the place. And from my recollection, from having conversations with DOT, is they don't change the speed limit unless the speed of the cars on the road dictate it, whether it's higher or lower. Is that your understanding of it, Commissioner Williams?
I'll comment when you're finished.
Okay. That's what I recollect DOT telling us when we said we would like a particular street, an A1A to be a certain speed limit. They said we can't do that. It's dictated on how fast the cars are driving on the road, on that particular stretch of road. So it is what it is there. The bump, I was not on the commission when DOT was here feeding that information or getting information from us and all. But I was at the meeting, and you're exactly right. It was a slow rise and then a slow decline, not where you could, if you have a very low profile vehicle, you could actually get stuck on that. That's not what that's about. It should be, and you should be able to go over it at the speed limit of that particular road.
Yeah.
So I tried it, not at full speed, but I tried it at 20 across on First Street South, and that was not a problem, but it was in an F-150, a 2006 F-150. Yeah, it rattled a little bit, but I maintained control of the vehicle. That's about all I can say about it. I'm not planning on going over it at 30 miles an hour, though.
What about you, Josh?
And, people are just going to be doing it. It's going to happen. I don't know what it's going to do and who's going to be at fault when their cars get totaled or they run into somebody or lose control of their vehicle.
Yeah.
I think that's where my concern goes is I don't think you can, coming into Cocoa Beach from the south, I don't think you can navigate safely the speed bump at the speed limit, right? And without any warning that you've got to reduce your speed, I think we're we're in a situation where we may be putting residents at risk. If they were to go 30 over top of that speed bump, I think you're liable to lose control. So I think that they've put a hazard in the road that is counterproductive to pedestrian and to driver safety.
And on that point about pedestrian safety, the whole idea of, years back, we got FDOT to pay to put sidewalks on both sides of the road, up and down A1A to the northbound and southbound lanes. It's all for what they call net zero, which is to keep from having pedestrians, bicycle riders, skateboard riders, people running across the street with their surfboards from getting hit by cars. That was a net zero. That's their goal. They don't want anybody to get hit by a car. The traffic tables were meant to be able to go at the speed of the road. There was a point in time where that one at First Street South was, because they really wanted to slow people down going down by the school and all that, because all those crazy people that are coming into the school that jut across traffic. Oh, no, I'm just kidding. Anyway, that was going to be 6 inches high. And they said, well, it's a traffic table, so, you go up a little higher, and then you go across it, and then you go back down. I said, what about a low boy that the federal requirement is only that they have 5 inches of clearance under their trailer, and their trailer's long enough to cross, to straddle that whole thing? I said, that thing's going to be gone. So they reduced it to 4 inches.
Okay, so we have a consensus. We all would like that removed if possible, and obviously I'll be there as well, so.
Or at least go to what they said they were going to do, which is the traffic table, but I can go either way.
But we can also take some of my experience from New Jersey and make them an offer they can't refuse, and that's get rid of it.
That's a great plan right there.
How does that sound?
Yeah,
Okay.
but going and pouring a 55-gallon drum of diesel fuel on it at midnight and it being gone at 5 in the morning is not environmentally friendly, but it would be gone in the morning.
Thank you, City Manager.
All right, so I got direction. I'm good. And Mayor, you'll be there too, so. March 10th, Bicentennial Park will be closed down. We're going to start the Bicentennial Park renovation project. It'll be closed for quite a while, probably in the 8-month range. All right. You got one big fan out there. And also, I'm requesting on March 20th, if we could start the CRA meeting at 6:30. Apparently, there's 4 or 5 items. Karen, is that?
So looking at the next meeting, we have several items on the agenda already. That's 4 items in the CRA by itself. That would take items a little longer than normal. And then we have, depending on what happens tonight, and then we have a couple other things on that agenda. So requesting that we start the meeting at 6:30, the commission meeting at 6:30, and we'll transfer into the CRA like normal. But at least this way, we won't run into the 10 o'clock deadline.
Concur. It's within our guidelines.
I'm easy, whenever you guys want. Okay.
We'll
It's
move
just,
right into the CRA.
we put them together now.
Thank you.
That's all I have.
All right, thank you, City Manager. City Attorney,
Nothing.
City Commission. All right, moving along. Consent agenda.
Okay, this is the consent agenda. Item 1, approve the interlocal agreement between,
That got pulled.
Each one, yeah, was pulled.
sorry, I missed that. Okay, item 2, approve the 63-month leasing agreement with Dex Printing. This agreement includes print management services, equipment, and maintenance. This agreement has a cost savings of $17,873.04 annually, and will save a total of $93,833.46 over the entire leasing period from the previous agreement. Annual cost is $76,008 for a total of $399,042 over 63 months. This is a budgeted item. Staff Representative Kevin Perez, Information Technology Director. Item 3, Sustainable Land Advisory Committee, appoint Eric Belaski to serve a term ending November in 2028, seat 3, Commissioner Tumulty. Staff Representative Karen Groom, City Clerk. Authorize the city manager to sign an agreement between the United States Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, a component of the Department of Homeland Security, DHS, and the city and the Cocoa Beach Police Department, pursuant to which ICE delegates to nominated, trained, and certified officers or employees of the Cocoa Beach Police Department the authority to perform certain immigration enforcement functions. Staff Representative Wes Mullins, Police Chief, recommendation approved.
Move to approve as read.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Items removed from consent agenda. H1. H1.
H1, okay. Approve the interlocal agreement between the Space Coast Transportation Planning Organization, TPO, FDOT, and Brevard County municipalities in reference to the TPO to provide transportation planning services to include Central Florida Expressway Authority. Brevard County is a member of the Central Florida Expressway Board. The Central Florida Expressway Authority has a vital and increasing role in the transportation facilities and services in Brevard County. Staff Representative Wayne Caragino, City Manager.
Move to approve as read.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any public comment? We've got Orson. Go ahead, come on up, Orson.
Who pulled it? Oh, of course, pulled it.
Jeremy pulled it.
Good evening, Orson Tarver, June Drive. So first I want to say for the applause for the boat ramp, that's Keith. You remember when you, me, Greg Lund, Wayne, and who was the city manager at the time, Wayne?
McKnight.
McKnight. We all met, and me and Greg were fired up over that boat ramp being just absolutely junk. Keith was like, yeah, I agree with you guys. And I mean, finally to see that that boat ramp's being done is freaking awesome. So thank you. Okay, so back to the topic. So I asked for this to be pulled. Thank you, Jeremy, Commissioner, for doing that. So I was at one time on the resident advisory for the beachside TPO. I guess the resident between Cape Canaveral and Cocoa Beach alternates back and forth. So I was on that committee for a while, and I can tell you that from what I observed, when it comes to FDOT, you know, FDOT doesn't really listen to you, Mayor, or any of the other mayors, or Wayne. I mean, they're nice to you guys, but I can tell you that they don't really listen to you guys. But I can tell you this, when I was on the Space Coast TPO on those meetings, the one person that FDOT did listen to was Georgiana Jolette, who is the executive director of the Space Coast TPO. Whatever she said, basically, they sat there and literally just wrote down word for word what she said. So I saw this on the agenda today, and you know, I reached out to Jeremy. I was like, if there's an opportunity to get someone to advocate on behalf of the residents of City of Cocoa Beach to get those speed bumps torn out and get the speed limit of 35 miles an hour, probably the one thing that everyone agrees on in this room, that whether you're an STR owner or a resident, is it's just baloney. But if you guys will table or postpone waiting on this and have them, you know, Wayne send her a email direct, say, we need your help. We're holding back, you know, our approval of this, not saying we're not going to approve it, but we want you to come to this, I guess, a speed meeting that's happening, and we want you to advocate on our behalf. I can tell you what, if FDOT sees her sitting there, or she sends them an email saying, hey, you need to pull out these speed bumps and fix that speed limit, I guarantee you FDOT will pay attention to that. And they'll also give you guys lip service as well. But I can just tell you, I mean, I participate in those meetings. It is unfortunate, but you already saw how they treated you so far. You guys didn't want these. They did it anyways. You didn't want the speed limit. I was here for the meeting. They did it anyways. I'm sorry for being pessimistic, but I think unless you get a heavyweight like her behind you and advocating, I think it's just going to go I think nothing's going to change. So anyways, that's my suggestion. Thank you. And Wayne, thank you for what an awesome boat ramp we're going to have here in a short amount of time.
Thank you, Orson. Jeremy, did you have something that you wanted to say?
Speaking on behalf of Orson.
Okay.
I'd like to hear Skip.
Yeah, I did 17 years as our representative on the Space Coast Transportation Planning Organization. Georgiana was part of the organization for Brevard County the entire time. We got the Minuteman streetscape. We got our sidewalks all the way through the entire town. We got our roads paved. We've got in the 5-year plan to raise, at least get through the design of raising 520, so when the hospital moves and we have high stormwater, we can still get to the hospital. Yes, Georgiana is key in communication with FDOT. I went through probably 6 different FDOT directors over our district. I spoke with lots of them. Like I said earlier, there were supposed to be 16 speed bumps in Cocoa Beach, and I got it reduced, and I got them to, at least put in traffic tables, which isn't what they did. So I think we do have a voice, and Keith's taken over that job as our representative on the Space Coast Transportation Planning Organization. But I will say, and I don't believe there's anybody in this room that would disagree, that they lowered the speed limit from 35 to 30. Everybody still goes 35, which is what the old speed limit was. So are we asking raise it to 35 so that we can go 40 because the cops are 5, you're fine, 9 over, you're mine? So you can go, we're talking about going, 44 miles an hour before you get a ticket, or to leave it at 30 and you just drive 5 over because you don't pay any attention to the speed limit.
You're telling everybody to break the law.
No, I'm just saying, by reducing it to 30,
Staying right here.
you've finally got your 35 mile an hour limit, which is what it was before. People will comply, and I didn't see anybody objecting and disagreeing with me, so.
I'm objecting to what you just said, actually.
You got a ticket for 5 over?
I'm suggesting
we
that
shouldn't-
you are
we shouldn't
suggesting that
suggest
now
that.
anyone can drive 39 miles an hour and not get a ticket. And I don't think that's appropriate for our commission or our city representative to tell everyone, everywhere, that they can drive 39 miles an hour in a 30-mile-an-hour zone and not get a ticket. I don't think it's
No,
appropriate.
9 your mind, 9 your mind. 38. You can go 5, you're fine, 9 your mind. That's
I'm making it-
nationwide.
If I had, Mr. Mayor, can I speak, please?
You may.
Thank you. My point is, you as a commissioner, Commissioner Williams, are stating to the public that it's okay to go 38 miles an hour through Cocoa Beach in a 30-mile-an-hour zone, and I disagree with that.
Okay.
That's all I'm saying.
So what-
It is-
what's
that's-
your
If I'm done talking, then you can ask the mayor if you can talk, okay? Thank you. Now I'm done.
Can I say
Yes, you
rebuttal,
may.
please? What's your observation now that they've reduced the speed limit to 30? What's your observation of the traffic flow, the normal traffic flow through that 30-mile-an-hour zone?
Let me just interject real quick, because it doesn't make sense to go back and forth on this, other than the observation that it's not okay to basically say it's okay to break the law. So, but we do know, I know the point that you're saying is people are going to go 5 over anyways, and I understand where you're getting at it, but we can't condone it, but we know that people do it. So I think we can just leave it at that at this point. But I do want to say, I want to ask the city manager, Orson's recommendation should we table it or should we just vote on it now? What would your recommendation be? Should we wait till after the meeting to vote on it, or should we just vote on
We
it?
have a motion in a second, we have to vote on it.
I know, but I'm saying, would you recommend that we vote yay or nay? Just because you're going to be talking with them, you've been in contact.
To be honest with you, I think that's beyond my cognizance. I think that's your decision, the commission's decision, not mine. I'd be more than happy to do everything that I can to get them removed. As far as the speed limit and the involvement in the TPO, if you want to wait until after the meeting, I'm fine with that.
What does the rest of the commission think about
We're
that?
asking if there's any leverage with
Yeah, I'm thinking, you're the one that's been talking to
No
them.
leverage?
No.
Is it,
No, it's a negative leverage if you don't pass this.
okay.
I got one more
We have no
comment.
agreement.
If you get a job at the Space Center and you're going to drive through the Air Force Gate to get to Kennedy Space Center, if you go 1 mile an hour over the speed limit, the Air Force Police will give you a ticket. So, and it actually comes with the cost. So, there are places that enforce the speed limit to the T, and there are other places that are a little more lenient, I would say. So, I recommend following the posted speed limits. I was just giving a general, Google it, guideline nationwide of what the consensus is on when you get tickets and when you don't get tickets. But if you're on the Air Force side and you're 1 mile an hour over, or you don't rock to a stop at a stop sign, if you do the California roll, you're getting a ticket.
Okay, I think it's
Mayor.
irrelevant at this point.
Mayor, can I?
Yes, you may.
Again, so after thinking about this, I would suggest, my suggestion, pass this now, and then when you go into that meeting Monday, you will be the representative of our TPO. You'll carry more weight. If Georgiana,
Okay,
and so that would be my recommendation.
It's very reasonable.
all right, very good. Okay, public comments closed. All in favor?
All right.
All opposed? Motion passes 5-0. All right, unfinished business.
Okay, item 1, discuss pedestrian bicycle striping on the multi-use path along Minuteman Causeway. Staff Representative Jeremy Hutcherson, Commissioner, recommendation approve installing e-bike pedestrian awareness stencil.
Move to approve as written.
I'll second.
We got a motion and a second. Public comment, we've got Judy Eberly.
Good evening, Commissioners. I'm using my outside voice so everybody can hear, and I hope everybody else will do that forthcoming. 2 things on this. Paint is cheap. Paint it. We have staff in Cocoa Beach. We don't have to outsource it. Put the paint on, whatever you want. Maybe make it reflective. As I was driving here tonight, there were people on Minutemen Causeway, had bike lights and everything, but again, it's important that people see them. If you can make it reflective, again, we can do it in-house. The other thing is we have stop signs on all of going up and down Minutemen Causeway. Those stop signs are at least 2 full car lengths that people pull out to and stop. People do not stop very well. I won't say everyone, but they don't stop very well for pedestrians, for bicycles. We have 2 schools in Cocoa Beach on Minutemen Causeway. When people don't pull up and stop at the stop sign, look left, look right, there's going to be an accident. I suggest, and it was brought up last meeting, I suggest that we have signs below the stop sign. Again, we can do this in-house. It's not going to cost much because we have in-house sign making, and I believe I'm correct on that. That should say, caution, pedestrians, bicycles crossing. In 2014, my son was late for school, going to Cocoa Beach Junior Senior High School. He was on his bike and he was pedaling. He got hit by a car. He flipped over the handlebars. He landed in the grass, thank you God, on his backpack, thank you God. He was not severely hurt. He had an arm injury. The woman that hit him was beside herself. She knew my son, John. When I finally got the call and got there, I stopped my car, said a prayer, walked across the street, and saw my son compassionately watching over this woman because she was so distraught. The ambulance, the police, everybody did a great job. Thank you. But for me, when people don't stop where they're supposed to stop, that's where the accidents are going to happen. If there's a sign that says pedestrians and bicycles crossing, put, as we were talking about speed bumps earlier, put rumble strips there. Put the speed bumps at the stop signs. Make people stop. But when my son was hit by that car, you can only imagine my distress. And I think there's something that can be done about it in-house. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, public comments closed. Go ahead.
Good evening, Commissioner Brad Kelso, Public Works Director. As part of your discussion, I want to bring up a topic that was recently brought to our attention. Last week, FDOT reached out to us. They run a program with elementary schools throughout the state. This year, they ran a program through Roosevelt Elementary. It's a bike safety symbol drawing contest, and they've selected 2 winners from the elementary school. And oh, you don't have the school one? So what FDOT wants to do, they will take the drawings and make them into a thermoplastic image, and they want to put this on the sidewalk in front of Roosevelt in 2 spots. So I wanted to give that to you for your information tonight.
Thank you. All right, commission, discussion?
I mean, we voted 5-0 in the funding side of it, and then there was an action to get the legal ramifications. I think we've mitigated that. I like the idea. I think it's, to Judy's point, anything we can do to make it aware it's a low-cost solution, so I'm all for it.
And if, just in the area that's just by the elementary school, Brad?
This is no cost to us. This is a free donation.
I'm just saying.
Yeah, so Roosevelt Elementary?
Yeah, just,
Roosevelt.
right. 2
So
of them.
they want to put one near where the kids park their bikes, the little
Right.
bike compound right
Okay.
there, and then the other one by the exiting driveway.
Okay. That's okay. But to put things like this, we're in places we're talking about is, maintenance intensive because everybody knows paint fades in Florida. White paint probably lasts longer, at least maintains some contrast longer. So I stand behind, go ahead and supporting this.
Hey, Brad, are these images, you're suggesting that they're colored like that, or are they going to be white?
They will be colored.
Colored.
It's because the kids drew
I
them.
understand that, but I'm
There's
just saying.
2 of them though.
Right, okay.
And FDOT is expecting these to last 5 to 7 years.
Well, it's not even a state road, so who cares about it?
Eventually when they do fade, I suppose we could just paint it gray and then put a white one over it, or maybe they'll continue the program and paint it gray and then put a new one on in the next year or 5 years or whatever, so there's something we could
We'll
do.
let the school board deal with it.
Yeah.
This is separate from what we're
Right.
voting on.
Yeah.
So,
So a general consensus, we're okay with allowing
absolutely.
FDOT to do that.
Would you like FDOT to come to the next meeting to give a little bit more information
yeah.
about the program?
Oh, yeah, then we can talk to them about some other things.
But doesn't it belong-
These aren't the right people.
Okay. All right. So just to point out, the reason FDOT is now dealing with school property is because they have every meeting a bicycle safety program report, back to the net zero. They don't want people, pedestrians or bicyclists or skateboarders or anything else you might do on the roadways with cars to be injured. So now they're reaching out into things that Minutemen Causeway is not a state road, and obviously the sidewalks aren't state sidewalks, but they're advocating this to put them there as part of their goal for net zero, to raise awareness. So I'm okay with it.
Okay.
Get
All right,
along.
Brad, we're okay with it, Brad. All right, so let's get to the discussion at hand. So are we all okay with the updated stencils, just to show that bicycles and pedestrians are on the path? Any other public comment, commission comment on that before we
I'm
vote?
saying every other one should be in the opposite direction, because everybody's not always going to be going this way.
Right.
Yes.
We close public.
Yeah, we closed public comment, sorry. Okay, so you guys ready to vote on this, or?
Yeah, I like the fact that it's not one side or the other, because that's just not going
Yeah.
to happen. And I'm for this. If the consensus is to put these stencils in, and we think that that's the safest thing to do, I'm going to have to concur with that. I think for safety on the sidewalk, which was what this was all about, was actually controlling the speed of the e-bikes, which we may be doing going forward. Not for a discussion right now, but that's definitely going to be on the agenda going forward, mitigating the speed of e-bikes or whatever bikes they are, because some of them aren't actually e-bikes, they're motorbikes. So I concur with this.
Okay, so what do you guys think, I guess this is up to Public Works how they want to do it, but like one between every block? I mean, you don't want them everywhere, obviously.
Wait a minute, you have a proposal that should already have that delineated.
Okay,
Yeah, and I'm good with the proposal. I think this was proposed as a first step of many. And I think as soon as we have these up and have a few moments to observe if there's a benefit, something to build on, something we can learn, I think we need to be intentional to put this topic right back onto, and as Commissioner Tumulty's mentioning, it may be already in the works, but I'd like to make sure we hold ourselves accountable to continue to bring this topic to the fore and intentionally put it on our agenda to continue to identify new solutions and next steps.
all right. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes 5-0. New business.
Okay, new business, item 1, adopt ordinance 1695, an ordinance of the City of Cocoa Beach, Florida, amending Chapter 26.5 Vacation Rentals of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Cocoa Beach, providing that the regulation of vacation rentals shall be citywide rather than just in the RS1 zoning district, making related changes in the code, and providing for conflicts, codification, severability, and an effective date. Staff Representative Wayne Caragino, City Manager. Recommendation, adopt on first reading.
Move to approve ordinance 1695.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Again, I just want to remind everybody.
Before we go to comments, can we talk?
Yes, I just want to remind everybody that if you want to speak, you must put in a speaker card tonight. I'm only going to be taking speaker cards tonight. And you have 3 minutes. So make sure you think about what you want to say for the 3 minutes. And we're going to go to commission comment before that.
Yes. I tried to figure out, I know we're expanding past RS1, and I know that I have a lot of people that say they live in zoning that's not RS1, RM districts, some of the town commercial districts, other districts that have issues with short-term rentals that, obviously don't have basically any rules. But I want to make sure that, and if it needs to be done by amendment, Becky, let me know, okay? I want to make sure that we're not applying this to zoning that already has permitted transient, allowances. Because there are condominiums in Cocoa Beach that are permitted as transient, in which case they can rent by the hour if they want to. And we shouldn't be registering condominiums or any properties that are currently allowable as transient.
Okay, are we talking about condotels?
You're probably talking about the Diplomat?
There are, okay. Dave, have you been here long enough to know where all our transient districts are? You can say no. No. Okay. So I just want to make sure this excludes currently permitted transient properties.
No, it does not exclude anything. It would not apply to hotels because those are not vacation rentals. It would only apply to vacation rentals as defined in our ordinance, which is the same definition
Okay.
as defined by the state.
Okay, I think Tim was here. There may be people in the audience who were here. But years ago, before Becky was here, we had condominiums that were acting as hotels, long before short-term rentals, okay? And they weren't renting for 6 months in a day or more, okay? And we did a grandfathering for them to come forward and confess that they were doing transient lodging. And we gave them that permit to be transient. Now, some of them had to go in and put sprinkler systems in and all kinds of things to comply with being a transient lodging establishment. But we do have permitted transient lodging establishments that are not hotels in Cocoa Beach. And I'd like to make an
That are
amendment.
not, okay, they're not vacation rentals because if they are,
They don't have to.
vacation.
Long before short-term rentals, vacation rentals, Airbnbs, VRBOs, whatever you want to call them, we had that going on in Cocoa Beach, in hotels, in condominiums, in apartment buildings. And they weren't living by you got to rent for 6 months and 1 day minimum. They were renting by the day, week, month to month.
I mean, I'm just going to
Yeah,
say it.
I guess what I'm saying is
A vacation rental is a vacation rental is a vacation rental unless it's a
Yeah.
hotel, in my opinion.
Unless it's a hotel. And
We have
because
currently
Florida,
permitted transient properties that have been doing that for years.
and they have BTRs, and there are a whole bunch of vacation rentals that, because throughout the entire city, if you are renting transient rentals, you have to get a BTR. So that's everywhere.
Right.
Every
I
zoning
agree
district.
with the BTR.
Right.
But to register, why should a property that was grandfathered in as transient, be it a condominium or an apartment building, now be forced to register as a short-term rental?
It is totally up to you. It's perfectly legal to require that. I don't know if we have a list somewhere of, I don't know who was grandfathered in.
I'm going to let Dave, I'm going to let,
I mean, is there a piece of paper
There's a couple
that
zones I
says?
just looked up. CN and CT would be the only zones that I could see that could possibly fit that description.
I agree.
I'm going to let,
But they are documented.
So I just don't know exactly what the verbiage is on a CT or a CN zone. I don't know if that's.
It's a separate permitting that was documented years ago to say, okay, you guys came forward, you're transient, you got to live by transient standards, and we recognize you as transient property.
Okay, so they are inspected like hotels? They've got the sprinkler systems? They've got- I'm just asking. I don't know.
Yeah, the fire chiefs, I don't know what their requirements are. I just know that went down years ago.
If we don't have the actual verbiage and documentation in front of us, exactly what that is, we're just going on your
I'd like
memory, I
to-
get that. If we don't have that, we can't use that. We've got to have actual documentation and zoning numbers. Thank
yeah,
you.
let's listen to Dave here.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the commission. Yeah, the point I want to make is there's a reason why we have a category labeled as transient and we have a category labeled as vacation rentals, because they're not the same. They have different impacts. They have different characteristics. Their ownership is different. Transient lodging, AKA hotels, motels, is generally it's a unified property owned under one ownership. That's not the case with vacation rentals. And so they're two different animals. And so to try to regulate them the same is could potentially be very problematic. That's the point I'm trying to make.
Okay.
And
You'll get it figured out. Do we have our fire inspector back there that wants to talk about the current transients that aren't hotels? And just for your information, we have hotels that are actually state registered as condominiums so that they can evade some of the taxes that are applied onto hotels. So those aren't all under the same ownership. They're a conglomerate, but they're individually owned condominiums. So that's how they get around that.
Sal Alberto, Fire Marshal. We do all fire inspections for BTRs, for new businesses, those that are transient rentals. The condominiums, or excuse me, not condominiums, but the hotels get annual inspections per the state requirements. So anything that's a BTR for a transient rental is under the state statute 69A, and we have a checklist that we go. They are different than hotels. Hotels are more stringent.
Are you saying that you have condominiums, you don't have condominiums that are inspected as transient?
We do. They have BTRs attached to them. There are probably some that are unregistered, and when they become 51%, transient rentals, then it kind of falls under a larger category that has to be a little bit more stringent. But that is something that the third party would have to address to see how many we have that are 51%.
And that's where the breakdown was we had the transient going on with people that weren't transient. And if they were over 51%, then they had to put in fire sprinklers and
no,
all
I
those
get
kinds of
that.
things. So-
I get that. That's kind of everywhere.
Right, but
Yeah.
this went on, this was years and years ago, okay? So all I'm saying is, I won't make an amendment to say that the current transient permitted properties are not required to be included in this, but I will ask that it be looked into between now and the second reading, because if the second reading comes out exactly as the first reading, then I would like to make that amendment and have the backup data to say that current permitted transient, be it condominiums or apartment buildings, would be exempt from this because we grandfathered them in years ago.
Okay, well, we just, and I'm not trying to be argumentative at all, but we have been issuing BTRs for years and years and years and years for vacation rentals, which are the transient BTRs. So it's probably, I mean, I assume that the majority, I don't know, I assume that the majority of vacation rentals in the city, because they are required to have a BTR, have a BTR. So they are all, the ones that have come and said that they're vacation rentals or that they're transient, they already have their BTR. But that's not a regulatory permit. That's just it's a tax.
Okay.
And under the state law, the fire marshal has to go in and do inspections on that sort of thing. But, you know, when you say you grandfathered them in, I think a long time ago, there used to be depending upon if you were east or west of A1A, you had to have.
You don't have to try to surmise it now. Let's just
Yeah.
look it up before the next meeting, okay?
Okay.
Go back into the hysterical record. Karen.
To see if there were,
Karen can point you to it.
yeah,
But what I'm saying is, before there was short-term rentals, vacation rentals, Airbnbs, you know, however the economy is now and the way they advertise, there were transient short-term rentals. Okay?
Sure.
Okay? So, and those people had BTRs.
yeah.
Okay? So they were operating just like current short-term rentals then. And now, because of short-term rentals, Airbnbs, such and such, we want to regulate them beyond what they were originally required to do.
Right.
Right.
Yes,
And
that was the purpose of this ordinance.
I know, but
You don't have to adopt it.
all I want to do is the people that are already in the historical record were claimed weird transient before all this short-term rental thing started less than a decade ago, or maybe it was longer, but didn't really catch on. Those people that we permitted to be owners in transient districts or transient permitted buildings should be exempt.
Okay. It's totally up to y'all, whatever you want to do.
Mr. Mayor, are we going to have, also going to have the chance to discuss as a commission after public comment,
Yes,
right?
yes. Anybody want to, yeah, go ahead, Dick.
One more comment, Mr. Mayor. I want to make the point that transient rentals are not regulated by the city. We don't have any ordinances that regulate the use and operation of transient rentals.
And we shouldn't start now.
Well, that's the decision for the commission. That's not a decision for me. What I believe the city manager was directed to do was come up with some regulations to address vacation rentals in the city. For some reason, that was determined to be important enough to get the manager to do that, and we've been reacting to that. So all I'm saying is, right now, we do not regulate transient rent units. For some reason, vacation rentals have become an issue. They've evolved since whenever this was done. I'm not sure what year that was, but they've evolved. They've become a true industry, and the impacts are different between a vacation rental and a transient rental unit. They're different. And we don't have anything right now on the books to deal with transient rentals. So that's where the commission will need to decide how to deal with that.
City Attorney, if we do have repeat offenders past, I would say, the three penalties, do we have the authority, if we vote on it, to suspend a BTR or a short-term rental registration, a license for them to operate?
I would not recommend that you would ever do that. After 3 violations, they become a nuisance property, and then we can take them to court and let a court do what the court would do.
Okay. So I'm gonna say it again. I think so vacation rentals, whether it's in a condo or it's in a residential or whatever, I think it should be fair across the board. I think you know, if you have a vacation rental, you should pay whatever the vacation rental fees are. But I'll say again, I still think the registration fees are way too expensive. I want them. I think it's fair that everybody pays the same price, but I think that, like my recommendation before, I would like to see it closer to 1,000 for first time and 800 for renewal, and a 30-day grace period, so that people can get their stuff in order. But I am totally in favor of the fines. I'm in favor of raising it to a reasonable registration rate. Again, that was why I didn't vote on it last time, because I thought the fees were unreasonable. I agree with everything, but I won't vote to approve this unless the fees are more reasonable. So,
But that's a separate item on the agenda, right?
This is a separate item.
We're not on that.
oh, that was the other one? Okay.
I think, yeah, just for my
Well, that's just general comment. They're almost interrelated, the two topics.
But I
Yeah.
think we've got
So
to
a
discuss
couple
them
thoughts on that. So
separately.
I agree, but however, so just so the public's aware, the city can't profit from it, so we can't just arbitrarily set fees. It has to cover the cost of managing. So I agree, the fees seem ridiculously high, but the city said, hey, this is the cost it takes to enforce that. I don't know. I asked for a revenue model. We don't have that. What I'd like to see is this all managed in an enterprise fund, so we know exactly, it's transparent to the owners. I agree, it should be even across the board. If the fees can come down, it'll be transparent. We have to have whatever fees we collect, we have to have the cost in that same enterprise fund. Because
If
like
we
I
say
said,
we
the
get
city-
1,000 people on board and they pay $1,000 a piece, that's $1 million.
Right.
I mean, we should definitely be able to regulate it for $1 million a year, in my opinion. And that's not even including the fines.
Yeah, so one other piece is, last time we talked about this, the program costs were estimated at 2.3 million, but you said we weren't actually gonna hire the folks. I didn't quite understand that.
I think we're going to grow with it. I don't think we're just going to hire them. Oh, at least that was my understanding, is that we were going to grow with as it comes across. We weren't just going to hire 5 people. We were going to hire, I think, 1 person at least. And that, you know, like you said, you know, 100,000, 150,000 a year with benefits and all that, and the car.
All right, so, but just some high-level math, if we do the $1,500 plus all the inspection fees at the 1,500 units that are in the city, that's $3.5 million. So we got to come up with $3.5 million worth of cost to
Right.
substantiate those
Right.
fees. So that's why I want to see it managed in an enterprise fund, just so you can have that transparency. I agree they're high, but I certainly don't want to challenge that because they're not arbitrarily set. I mean, there's costs that justify those.
And then the inspection fees and all that are, you know, I'm okay with the inspection fees. I'm all right with that. I just think the registration, like I said. City manager,
can
you're
I-
welcome to butt in, yes.
Hannah, can you come up for a minute? I want our finance director to give us a little bit of information on enterprise fund, how it relates to this, and Devin, too.
Hi, good evening. What was
Hannah,
the-
can you just explain a little bit how an enterprise fund would not fit into this model?
Yeah, so enterprise funds, we've sought. Oh, sorry. So we've looked into enterprise funds, if that's an option for the city to establish the short-term rental program, and it doesn't appear that it is. We've looked at guidance from the GFOA, which is the Accounting Board Governmental Finance Officers Association. The city's a member of that association. We've looked for guidance from them, and it does not appear that this could be an enterprise fund. Generally speaking, enterprise funds consist of utility programs. So for water, sewer, those sort of activities, it's usually a budget where our expenditures are supported with the revenues that are collected.
Thank you.
So there are other accounting, financing methods to track.
Yes, there are.
I mean, that's what it's going to come down to. If you think the fees are too high, what are the costs that substantiate it? I agree, they seem high, but I didn't set them.
We provided a spreadsheet with our costs.
If I can interject.
Yes, you may.
Yeah, I know we're talking about a different agenda item. We should focus on this one, get this one through, and then move on to the other discussion.
I think that's good, and I think we should go to public comment and get to hear.
Yeah,
Yes.
let's get public comment on this one here. Steve Regiman? It's hard to read your last name on here.
Yeah, thank you. I'm commenting in general, just broadly. I understand the need to regulate vacation rentals. I support that in theory. I'm a vacation rental owner myself. I think that the motivation has been a lot of abuses of the system, but I would encourage you to really focus on punishing the wrongdoers and not punishing the large majority of us who operate according to your regulations and respectfully with the neighbors. My wife and I bought a home in a single-family area. We operate it as a vacation rental now, registered according to all the city code, and we've made good relations with the neighbors. We improved the property greatly. There's a lot of homeowner residents around us who don't follow city code, and that's not a big issue, but people seem to focus on vacation rentals as the problem. Now you're expanding that to cover condos as well, and I understand the need to have a program to register, to have registration fees. I think those fees should be in line with supporting the actual cost of the program, not as a punitive fee. And you should focus on trying to penalize the wrongdoers. So when you have people who have 30 guests at a residence, fine them, call out law enforcement, deal with that issue, but don't penalize the people who are doing it the right way, especially those who have been historically operating their condos, like you're mentioning, that were not registered before. If you need to support a program to register them, just please do a fee that supports the actual cost of doing that, not a punitive fee. And try to focus on keeping order in the city, not punishing everybody who just doesn't, there's a real disconnect between people who are residents and rental owners, and you focus on punishing the wrong people. So I'm having a hard time expressing that, but I hope you get the message that there's a lot of us doing it the right way, who are trying to be good law-abiding citizens and support the community. We pay property taxes. We're supportive of everything that's going on in the city, but we're begging you to not punish those of us who are doing it the right way and making it really hard to do the thing we're doing to make your community better at the same time. Thank you.
Nancy Happel?
I'm not sure that, I'm Nancy Happel, live in Cocoa Beach. I'm not sure that I'm speaking during the right. I didn't realize there were 2 agenda items on vacation rentals.
This one's for adding the condos, and the next one's for the fines and fees.
Can I speak on the next one?
You may.
Thank you.
I'll put this over here. All right. Orson.
Orson Tarver, 178 June Drive. So he also put my thing also into the pile for that as well. But I do only want to just comment on this, is that it does sound fair. It should be expanded to all the zoning districts, that makes sense, but I think we already have a problem just with RS1, and we've already heard about how hard it is for the city just to enforce and the low compliance and low registration. Now you're going to open this up to all the zoning districts. You still only have, you haven't hired anyone yet, have you, Dave? You still only have one code enforcement officer. And you open this up to all the districts. It's not like you're just going to have a slow metering of potential complaints or issues. It's all just going to come in at once. People are going to be complaining. You still don't have the revenue yet because I think I checked the city website. You guys haven't even updated the website yet for the new fees you passed 2 weeks ago. Maybe, I haven't checked it today. Maybe it was. I'm just saying, man, guys, if you're going to do this, seems like you're taking what is already a small big problem in a small district, and you're going to blow it up across the entire city, and you still only have one code enforcement officer. Chief, have you hired any police officers lately to deal with complaints? No, so you don't have any more police officers to respond to complaints after hours. I don't know, it just sounds like it's going to be a mess, man. I support it, but I don't think this is, you only 2 weeks ago are trying to fix the problem in one district, which is a funding issue. So anyways, I'll talk about the fees later, but I'm worried you guys are just going to really just blow this entire thing up for the city staff, and they're just going to be completely overwhelmed. And everyone's going to be mad at you guys, because they're going to be like, well, why'd you do that if you can't even fix one problem? Now we can't even fix the bigger problem, and then everyone's even more upset. So anyways, thanks for your time, but I appreciate you guys working on this.
Thanks, Horson. Katie Acosta? I think that's Katie. Is that a K or an R? Okay.
Good evening. Thank you for allowing me to speak today. My name is Katie Acosta, and I'm a resident of Cocoa Beach. I'm here to request your consideration for an amendment to the recently passed regulation regarding short-term rentals in our city. While I fully understand and appreciate the city's efforts to regulate this growing industry and protect the interests of our community, I'd like to propose a specific addition to the current policy that I believe will better ensure transparency and accountability. If I understand correctly, currently the regulations require property owners to register short-term rentals with the city, but as it stands, there's no explicit requirement to verify that all owners of the property are aware of and agree to the registration. This can create a situation where only one owner, or in some cases no owner of a property, may be listed in the registration process, leaving out others who may have a legal or financial interest in the property. I propose adding a step that requires the signatures and valid IDs of all property owners listed on the deed, whether primary owners, co-owners, or other legal stakeholders, to be submitted during the registration process. This ensures all parties involved are properly informed, helps the city maintain accurate records, and reduces disputes or fraudulent activity. Additionally, by preventing unauthorized registrations up front, this requirement could help decrease enforcement costs by minimizing the need for investigations and conflict resolution. I believe this small amendment, as the smaller, I guess that's based on opinion, but would be a reasonable and necessary step to ensure the process is fair, transparent, and secure. It would give property owners more confidence that the city is keeping accurate and complete records of those involved in renting out their properties while safeguarding the integrity of our neighborhoods and ensuring that our community remains a place where we can all be proud of. Thank you.
Sounds like you're applying for a job.
I work in HR, so I
Well, there you go. Dave?
So, Becky,
Yes.
you understood what she was trying to say?
Yeah, she's a lawyer.
Yes, and I think I will have to go back and look at the
Another
ordinance as
piece-
written,
yeah,
but
yeah.
I believe all owners do have to sign already,
Okay,
so.
Okay, well, maybe we're not enforcing that all owners. You might have to
That's
start
possible.
looking at property records to find out who the actual owners are
Right.
before we issue them a BTR. Anyway, if that's
I
another
agree.
piece to look at I don't think we should make an amendment on it tonight. If we can get past the first reading, that's been brought up as a subject. You could bring us back that information.
Absolutely.
For the next meeting, same as what I asked about the current transient folks that
Yes,
are
sir.
already basically what I would think be exempt.
Okay.
Okay. Deborah Ortiz. Concepcion.
Good evening. I own a property in front of the Pig and Whistle, 1940 beautiful little pink cottages that I've tried my best to keep as nice as I can. And 13 years ago, when my mom passed away, the only way I could keep it was to turn it into vacation rentals. And this recent one, obviously I wanted to do everything by the book. I paid everything I need to pay. I have my BTR, I have all of those sort of things, and you go by the rules. And everybody always assured me you have the correct zoning because it's a cottage road district, et cetera. This RS1 new issue that came up terrified me because I don't know what people think we earn as vacation rental owners, but it's not the cash cow everybody thinks it is. There's a lot of maintenance, especially if you want to keep a property and maintain it the way it should be. And most of the vacation rental owners do that because otherwise they would never have any business. My concern is that this fee, while I agree that, coming out of the RS1 and where the RS1 seem to have a lot of the problems, if you're in a district that's considered an area that has a little bit more activity, et cetera, you want to include us. The idea would be to help spread some of it out to make the enforcement easier because the funds are there to be able to allow that to happen. But 2,000 and something per unit, most of us have little duplexes or fourplexes. I've been here since the 70s, and this property's been in my family since then. I'll sell it. There's no point for me to think I have a $10,000 bill on top of my $10,000 worth of taxes, on top of my $20,000 in insurance, and my expenses there's no point. What's the point? So what happens, I sell it to whoever the highest bidder is. He comes and makes a nice little concrete 3-story elevator and puts that in the middle of Cottage Row because he's allowed to. That's what they can do. So much for the charm. I'm not the only owner that is a resident and has been a resident for years and supports our community and put their blood, sweat, and tears into this community and buys property and maintains it and wants to keep it. So these kind of fees are extraordinary for a normal person to try and think, I can do this every year on top of everything else that I don't know what my insurance is going to do next year. I don't know what my taxes are going to do. They've gone up in 3 years. They've gone from $4,500 to $10,000. So I just say, I would think, because you may
Yeah. I do actually want to say something to that point. Cottage Row, I mean, that's a business area, so it's to me it's a little bit different. And I don't know, like Skip was saying about some of these areas, but a bar pays like $250, I think, for their registration for the year, and then you're going to have a little fourplex pay $10,000 when they have a tenth of the traffic that a bar has. Just so the different designations or different areas is something that we should look into, like you said. Catherine Swingle.
This discussion is on zoning.
Yeah, zoning. That's what I just.
Not on the fees.
I know, but I was making a point about zoning.
Mayor and City Council, thank you for the opportunity to speak. Thank you, Deborah, for setting some stage for me. I, too, am a resident here in Cocoa Beach. I've been here for 10 years. My husband Todd and I have. We own in the town center redevelopment area, next to Deborah's property, actually. We bought these properties in 2001, looking for a real estate investment. We were thinking we would do a long-term rental potentially, but financially that doesn't work here. You cannot buy the property and operate a long-term rental with the cost of operating here. But because they are in a multi-use zone, we could operate a business there. We did everything we were supposed to do. We got all of our business licenses. We renovated these places. We spent a year and poured hundreds of thousands of dollars into turning them into a place that was not habitable, into a beautiful little cottage. We get tremendous positive feedback from both the community and our guests that stay with us. So on the basis of the ordinance, we do have two concerns in particular. One, the ordinance itself is really geared towards issues in the RS1 area, noise, parking, congestion. Our businesses are located in a commercial area. We have bars and restaurants across the street. I have surf shops behind us, and businesses all around us, right? The ordinance should not apply to commercial zoning. These areas are already set up for activity including lodging, restaurants, tourism-related business. City services are planned for higher intensity uses, and transient occupancy is expected in these areas. Applying these same rules here as in residential neighborhoods is unnecessary and places an unfair burden on the legitimate businesses in these areas. The fees themselves, we've talked about that some, are unfair and excessive. Our little 4-unit property would be treated as 4 separate units with 4 registration fees. These are 2-bedroom, 1-bath. We don't bring in hundreds of thousands of dollars per unit, right? It is an excessive fee on top of the operating expenses, the insurance, the taxes that we have to pay in order to own these properties in the first place. We have guests that come and they do support this community, right? They come and we've hosted hundreds of guests in the time that we've been there. They do support the community. The other thing on the fees, you mentioned the bars pay $200. The fees on us for annual renewal would be equivalent to 28 bars that can host 100 people or 1,800 hotel rooms. That's the equivalent fees.
Thank you.
There's no way our little duplexes have that level of impact on the city.
Appreciate it. Alex Strashinki?
Yes, sir. My name is Alex Strashinsky, and I reside at 5200 Ocean Beach Boulevard in Cocoa Beach. We moved here in 1967 and fell in love with Cocoa Beach. And we did some renting and we did some vacationing in Cocoa Beach. And we ended up buying a unit in the Cocoa Beach Club in 1985, 40 years ago. To maintain the unit and to pay for all the expenses, we also rent out the unit when we're not there. We've been renting the unit before there was an Airbnb, before there was a vacation rentals by owner. We rented prior to that, and we continue to rent. I read the ordinance that you folks have, and it was a very good ordinance, except it should not apply to us. I read in the paper about 2 or 3 weeks ago that the condo associations were excluded because they're going to do self-policing. And I was surprised that this meeting was going to occur here on a revised ordinance. We were grandfathered back 20 years ago. And that was a smart thing to do, to let us police, because the things that you're concerned about in the ordinance don't apply to us. And I'll give you a couple examples. One is parking. There's a lot of paragraphs on parking. We're self-contained. There's no off-street parking. Everything's inside. If we have a couple of guests, we have extra parking for that. So parking is not an issue. noise and problems with neighbors. We're self-contained. We have a residents that are mostly seniors that are renting, and once we get into the summer period, it's families, and we don't party. We close the pool at 8 o'clock. There's no areas to have parties, and we don't have it. And the third item is that we do self-policing. We have an on-site manager that's there 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, to maintain the units, but also to maintain our rules and regulations, noise, parking. All those are taken care of. So what I'd like to ask is that you continue what we had before and not include the condo associations in this ordinance. And thank you.
Thank you. Marcus Grunther? What was it? Grantham.
All right. Hey everyone, my name is Marcus Grantham. I live in Indian Harbor Beach, and I have a 5-year-old son and an 8-year-old daughter, and my loving wife who manages our 3 short-term rental condos here in Cocoa Beach that are in a cottage row zoning. The reason I wanted to tell you about my family is to let you know that your actions here matter. They have impact. We did not come from money. We scraped by to buy these condos. They don't make a ton of money like a $1 million house. These 3 condos make $100 a night, and now we got to add all these fees on top of it, just like everybody else has said. We Airbnb these condos, and we have them properly registered. We have the BTR, we got our smoke detectors, we have emergency lights, we had the fire inspector come by, and we did everything by the book. Last meeting, you raised the fees on RS1 by 400%, and you said, hey, it's not going to apply to all the condos. And now, 1 meeting later, it applies to the condos. Now that we have to register, it's already, so now that we have to register, it's already been increased to the $2,500 from the $500. So we didn't even get a chance as a condo to come in and register as the $500. I emailed everyone, and then Skip did reply, and he told me that I should have already registered. But then she said last time that it didn't apply to the condo, and also the code enforcement lady that we went through actually accidentally filled out the RS1 application. She said, no, you're not supposed to do RS1, you just need the BTR. So now that it's $2,500, I get to register our 3 condos, which is $7,500, which is gonna be really hard to come up with, and I just kind of feel betrayed by this whole process. I would have registered earlier when it was cheaper, but now it's up to $2,500, and now it's getting pushed onto us condos, and we don't even get a chance to do anything. So to us, this is a big deal, and just please keep my family in mind while you're making these decisions to increase the fees. Thank you.
Thank you. Judy Eberly.
Hello again, I'm Judy Eberly. I've been a resident of Cocoa Beach for 25 years. Thank you, hearing already from our commissioner that he does not agree with these rates because they're outrageous. I live in a neighborhood, there's at least 4 or 5 Airbnbs on my street. What I have found, the one right next to me, they're great people. Get to know your neighbors, let them know that if there's a problem, you got their number, they'll take care of it. In 2011, I believe, we let the horse out of the barn, and that meant that anybody could do it. There's this great tool, it's called Mystery Shopper. You get somebody on the city, in the employee section, looking on VRBO, Airbnb, whatever, every one of those, and you find out, and just put a little tick mark, not registered, not registered, not legit, not legit, 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 legit. The people that are doing the right thing, my kudos to you. You're doing the right thing. It's the people that come in, whether it's with a company, a business, a get-rich-quick scheme. Yeah, they need penalization, and it's not raising the fee for everybody. I have some suggestions for you. One of the suggestions, I did speak with Dave. There is a posting. Somebody has already applied for the job. When you don't give someone the tools to do their job, you're setting them up for failure. You're setting them up for failure, having one person, possibly two. My suggestions: in-house posting, in-county posting, get more people. They need easily 4 to 5, and even if it's only part-time for the next 2 years, get the horses back in the barn. Utilize what we have. I worked for a huge company 20 years ago, and I had the opportunity to post, be interviewed, and to go on executive loan outside the company I worked for. I was there for 2 years, and then I would have gone right back to my current job. But having people come in and help us out during this critical situation, again, if one person is doing the job that needs 5 people, you guys aren't doing your job. I don't mean to point fingers. I know that sounds rude, but do your job in the sense of allow code to get people, whether they are within the city, out of the city, people that have had experience in this. Look around, find people that know the job and can come and do it with us for Cocoa Beach until we can get the horses back in the barn. That's all I have, except for do your job.
Thank you. Jeannie Schroeder.
Good evening, I'm Jean Schroeder. I'm the owner of Cocoa Beach Villas at 1395 South Atlantic Avenue. It is a quadruplex that I have owned over 20 years. At that time when we bought it, it was a vacation rental. It did transient rentals. I registered with the state. I can collect and remit taxes with the county and the state. The state came in, gave fire inspections. When you know, the city of Cocoa Beach actually tried to shut me down. I had to hire an attorney and fight for what I purchased to make sure that I could continue doing transient rentals. Well, guess what? I finally won. But years later, what happened? Y'all let everybody else do it. Totally unfair competition, right? I started with 200 competitors on Airbnb. If I go on Airbnb now, within a couple mile radius, I have over 2,000 competitors. Now you're interested in raising the rate hikes on our fees. It's outrageous. It's damaging. My property taxes are over $30,000 a year. My insurance is going through the roof every year. I keep my property immaculate. I pour into the city of Cocoa Beach. I don't feel like I'm getting that back. When we first went into business, it was a sign on A1A. You did Google AdWords to gain your business, and you developed relationships with people to get that business back. Then Airbnb came. Well, I couldn't fight them, so I joined them. Now I am an Airbnb superhost, I'm an ambassador, and I'm actually an expert on Airbnb. And I can tell you, there are a lot of unlicensed vacation rentals in this community. And you can do something about it rather than penalizing those of us that have been doing the right things for over 20 years. It's outrageous. I'm going to give you a quick example. I own another piece of property in Boston, Massachusetts. When I went to put it on Airbnb, they would not let me until I added in my licensing for the state and the city. It wouldn't allow it. Airbnb has the ability to stop people from using their platform unless they're properly licensed. There are things that we can do as a community to make sure that you receive the revenue and you can control the Airbnbs and the vacation rentals in this community. And honestly, I'd be more than happy to consult and show you how to easily look on the map system on Airbnb and just see where they all are, and can you match them up with your licensing. When you talk to Gidget on the phone, she absolutely knows they're not all licensed. So I just ask that you consider penalizing the people that deserve to be penalized and not those of us that have been doing the right thing for over 20 years. Thank you.
All right, that concludes our public comment. The The commission now will comment, and then we'll vote. Anybody else want to add to what they've commented before or on anything they've heard?
Yeah, I would. I think we've heard a number of really great comments, and I tend to agree. I think going back to one of the first ones from Orson, that we've got to get our hands around what we've already put on our plate. We've got to get folks hired up. We've got the primary driver that got this conversation started. We've got to learn how to start implementing. We've got to get at steady state just in the RS1, which we've already bid off, right? And so once we're up and running, we understand it, we've got good characterization of costs. I think the city has done an excellent job trying to get their definition of cost. But before we start complicating the situation by expanding out into every facet of the city and starting to get into multiple aspects of nuancing of size and count and location and all the different variations that could drive our implementation cost, if we just focus on getting staffed up, hired, get our processes down, get our costs understood for RS1, then our eyes can start to grow. But before we do that, before we understand the nature of the transient lodging agreements that we've had in place, as Commissioner Williams has mentioned, I think we're making a mistake by expanding this out to all city.
Anything else? I have something. I agree with what you're saying, the premise of it, absolutely. It's not our job to run the city. Okay, commissioners, we don't run the city. We create policy. City manager runs the city, and he can hire and fire who he wants or who he deems necessary, the number of people he deems necessary to fulfill the obligation of running the city based on the policies that we create. We've already been told by several people that, oh, I thought this was just RS1 and we weren't going to do condos or anything else. Well, back several months ago, probably a year ago, when we first started to set the fees, we talked about, or it was talked about to go citywide, but the decision at that time was made just to do RS1. Well, we know we can't do it with just one person. Fortunately, we have someone now that has experience in it. He knows what to do. He knows he needs more people. The city manager, from my understanding, knows we need more people. I think they need to implement it. We need to create policy. With what you're saying about, hey, we need to give them more time, I think we can incorporate giving more time to afford to ramp up by creating the regulations overall, rather than just zone by zone, and come back every 3 or 6 months and add another zone, I don't think is the way to go. I think we need to do it citywide with all the zones. This particular item on the agenda has nothing to do with the fees involved. We haven't talked, I'm not talking about that yet. I agree that those fees need to be lowered, so we're not going there yet. But we could also extend the grace period if need be, if that's what we need to do for the city to be able to catch up. That's my position on it, is that I say we've got to jump in the deep end and learn how to swim pretty quick, but we've got a good teacher out there that already knows how to do it. So that's my plan.
And as I said earlier, there's two different points that we're asking our city attorney to look into. One of them being the current grandfathered in transient properties that I think should be excluded. And I think there's records of that. And once we have that delineated, I will request an amendment at the second reading. We've discussed it tonight. It's applicable that at a second reading that could be added in and wouldn't have to go to a third reading. Is that correct?
Correct. That is correct.
Okay. Along with the other issue the lady brought up?
Yes. Well, the title has some says making related changes in the code. I think that it's already addressed, though. I think that we.
Well, I'm just asking
we
you
do.
to look into it and
Yeah.
let us know if we need to make an amendment to clarify.
Sure.
Okay?
Sure.
So I'll support it going through at the first reading, and I'm sure there'll be more emails than I can respond to, as I did get this time. And we'll move forward for a second reading. And I look forward to getting some information on the amendments, especially for the people that are already considered transient by, that are already recognized as transient by the city in the past. And speaking to the Commissioner Tumulty, speaking about the resolution, it just seems to me kind of odd that I know we can pass a resolution on one reading at any meeting, okay? But it seems kind of odd, since this seems to be tied to this ordinance, that we would pass this resolution as written before the second reading of this ordinance. I agree that I would like, maybe when we get to the resolution, to modify it to say, at this point in time, that because right now, anybody by RS1 doesn't have to register, okay? I would consider the fact that if we're going to pass this ordinance on the first reading, and that we don't expand this resolution to the remainder of the city till after we get through the second reading of this ordinance, if it does pass. But I agree with the intent of the resolution for the grace period. Does everybody understand what I just said?
I'm not quite sure I do. So just,
Okay. If you read here, whereas the city currently regulates vacation rentals located in RS1 single-family zoning, hereinafter RS1 district, and is currently considering the adoption of an amendment to vacation rental ordinance to expand the regulation of vacation rentals to include the entire city. So that's currently part of this resolution.
Yeah.
So I can't pass this resolution because until these two readings of this ordinance are codified, that sentence doesn't apply.
Right.
Okay? But I do believe that, we should be able to let people that would save a lot of time with code enforcement and everything else if we allow people that grace period to come forward. And I'm sorry I didn't approve it the first go around. But I was thinking of all the ones that have been getting away with it for 6 years, and now they're going to get by without any kind of, cost. So when we get to the resolution, we can strike that sentence and then go with the rest of it and still have the grace period?
Yes, it's something that doesn't jump out, when you're reading it, is section 3. It's got an effective date and an ending date. It says, "This resolution shall become in full force and effect upon final adoption of ordinance number 1695."
I understand that, but what I'm saying is the ordinance for RS1, is there one or is there not one?
Yes, that was passed many years ago.
Oh, so if we don't pass some kind of resolution right now, if I was RS1, I could have come in last week and paid $2,500, and then when this passes, I could have got away with $500. And I'm going to be asking the city for $2,000 back. And they'll say, well, you paid when the fee was higher, and now there's a reduction to $500.
Yeah,
You should have waited.
I could have written it so that only related to new registrations in the new areas. And I thought I heard that you wanted it all.
And I think you heard that right, but I'm just saying that if we pass the ordinance and the resolution refers to the ordinance, and the ordinance hasn't gone through a second reading, even though you did put the caveat, if it passes on the 21st or some date afterwards, then it'll go into effect. But it still doesn't give unless we pass something modified of this resolution, it doesn't give the RS1 people any relief to the current $2,500 they have to pay to get registered if they're not registered.
That's true. It does not.
We haven't discussed that yet.
Right. But I was just, because these two are tied together.
And my guess is no one has come to the city in the last 2 weeks and given $2,500.
And I'm hoping
for a
that's the
vacation
case,
rental.
because I don't think we need to get in the process of doing refunds.
All right.
Has anybody paid the 2,500, Dave?
Mr. Mayor, I'm hearing yes, but it's one or two.
Okay.
Okay, so if we pass the resolution that reduces it to 500, can we give these people back their $2,000?
Sure,
Okay.
sure.
And I don't want that to be,
In the last
what
2
I
weeks,
what I
two
want
people
that
came
to
in?
do is propagate into a whole bunch of other people. I want people to come in and register. And those people probably had to bite their lip to kick out the $2,500 because they weren't registered, and they could have registered at $525 if they would have done it before that was passed. So we want people to voluntarily comply, go with a reduced rate, and I think the only way we can pass a resolution tonight to do that grace period is if it's only for RS1, because the entire city, per ordinance 1695, has not yet passed for a second reading, a first or a second reading.
Okay, you could direct the city staff, direct the city manager to direct his staff to, until there is a second reading of this ordinance, to continue using the old registration fees
Of the 525.
of the 525, and then you could reimburse, if y'all wanted to do that. You wouldn't have to have a resolution, because I can't write one
Okay, I don't
now,
think
right
people are
now.
going to squawk over $25. It's a lot different than $2,500. Okay, I've talked long enough. I'm ready to vote.
Yeah. I'll say I'm still very much in the, let's prove we can do it. I respect what Commissioner Tumulty said, that we don't want to rinse and repeat a number of times, but we're doing something new, and I think we're doing something significant. And I would be perfectly fine coming back a year from now, having learned how to do RS1s and readdress this for whole city. I'm against whole city.
But you're letting the current issues perpetuate for what you just said, an entire year.
So
People
instead
that
of
are affected by the people that aren't following the rules.
the majority response I've got concerns is associated with RS1. That is the biggest pain point, and if we distribute our resources and personnel across the entire city, the rate at which that pain point gets addressed diminishes drastically. You know, on a contract, a ramp rate, the chance that your onboarding and your success rate accelerate to cover the whole city, you're going to probably cut it in half. You're going to cut it by a factor of 10. You're going to get 10% of the return on investment of the hiring on of people by distributing this out, by marginalizing it and distributing it out across the city. And so you will ultimately get to steady state across the whole city, but you're not going to see the impact you would if you'd have just focused and done it in RS1.
But
If I can suggest, I think maybe we should hear from the person that is going to be implementing it and see what his suggestion might be.
You may.
Yeah, that's a great metric that you're looking for, an issue. I will say this, that of the vacation rentals we know of, and that's the important key words is that we know of.
Yeah.
We have got our compliance rate in the RS1 to 88%. So our process, I think, is sound and it's effective. It's just a matter of identifying all of the other ones that we don't know of. So we have a process that I feel really good about. Can we expand it into the rest of the city right now? We could, but we don't. The issue I'm going to come back to is we just don't know what we don't know.
Yep.
And the problem, the pain points, I think I heard that term earlier, that we're feeling is these weekend issues, the noise issues, identifying those that are out there that we don't know of, So that's where we need some additional help. We need some more staff, but I think our process is pretty sound.
That's fair.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Dave?
Yes, sir.
So, one of the reasons I'm, at least want to get this through the first reading before we find out how the amendments play out, is because it's going to be an incentive for the people that are currently in the woodwork that are unregistered to have an opportunity to come forward during a grace period for way less than hiding out for 6 months and getting found out, and then it costs them $2,500, which by bringing those people in early that aren't already allowed to be transient rentals, then that's going to alleviate the drain on your resources if that works. Would that be correct?
Yeah, I mean, I believe that if it's really carrots and sticks here is what we're talking about. If the issue is getting people registered that aren't registered, is it reasonable to think that they're going to do it with a $500 fee or a $2,500 fee? I mean, I think that's pretty simple. So I think that's where that 30-day grace period can come into effect. Now, if the commission decides to expand it to encourage more people to do that, then I think that's sound, but that's your decision.
Do you have anything you want to say?
So I support, I mean, I look at it almost as like a pilot program. You know, we've let the dust settle. We've got a lot going on. We're already talking about, oh, the fees are excessive. Can we lower them? I think we need data metrics of what all the offenders are. I agree it should be universally registered across the board at some point, but I think in the essence of we got a lot going on. We've got revenue coming in to mitigate the staffing issue and see how that plays out in terms of nuisance calls and all the other stuff. So we could adjust fees and extend this to other zones at a future date. I don't know if it's a year, I don't know if it's a month, but I'd like to see that data of what the
I think the
impact is.
For me, the principle of it is, I think we should be fair across the board. I think if you're doing a vacation rental, it's a vacation rental. But I don't agree with our fees. So I was really hoping that the other one was going to come up first, so I'd know if the fees came down before I voted for this. But out of principle, I feel like we should be fair across the board. Everybody that does vacation rental should pay the same, just like everybody that does a bar or other business should pay the same registration fee. So that's where I think I want to be fair, but I wish that we were voting on the pricing of it first. So out of principle, not looking at pricing, we're going to talk about that next. Out of principle, for me, I feel like fair across the board, we will figure out how to come up with enforcing it, and I don't think that it's going to take us that long to figure it out.
And what it comes down to, this is the first reading.
Right.
It's not law, it's not codified until the second reading, okay? So, not saying it'll pass the second reading, but I'd like to move it past the first reading. So I'm going to support it.
I agree. I think move it past the first, and then we could fine tune it. If we don't agree on the second reading, then we can kibosh it then.
Okay.
But, okay, so all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Motion passes 3-2. All right, a lot to say on this next one. Item 2.
Okay, this is resolution number 2025-03, a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Cocoa Beach, Florida, providing legislative findings, amending resolution number 2025-01 that set vacation rental fees and fines and false advertising fines by providing for a 30-day reduced fee time period for the payment of vacation registration fees and late fees, providing that all provisions of resolution number 2025-01 shall remain effective except as temporarily revised by this resolution, in providing for severability and an effective date and an ending date.
If what you said was true, that the city manager can direct people somehow to be able to come in and only pay the $525 instead of the $2,500 that's currently in place?
You could do that. You would need to vote on it.
Right, okay.
Yes.
Then in light of that, I'd like to vote on that next. But in light of that, I'd like to table this resolution till after we get through, I'd like to make a motion to table the resolution till after we get through the second reading of the ordinance that we just passed.
I'll second.
Okay, a motion and a second to table? Do we do?
No discussion, no
Okay.
public comment.
All right. So you're saying table the vote?
Resolution 2025-03 gets tabled until after the second reading of the ordinance 1695.
Okay.
If it passes.
Do we want to have that before that reading?
Well, let's talk about that after.
Okay.
I don't care.
I kind of want to take care of the.
All right, we're voting on whether we're going to even talk about it.
Okay.
Yeah, we're not
Sorry.
supposed to be talking about it.
All right, all in favor to table?
Aye.
All opposed?
Nay.
Nay. Motion passes
3-2.
3-2.
A table?
To a table.
All right, now, we need, Becky, tell us what we need to vote on to be able to give these people
Okay,
relief.
I suggest that someone make a,
So let's tell you what happened. Right now, this motion has been brought up by Commissioner Williams to table it, so we don't talk about it, so we're not talking about that particular resolution at this meeting.
It doesn't mean you won't get to say
That's all we're just not
something.
talking about.
It
We're
just
not
means-
closing it, and we're not saying we're not doing anything.
The fees are what you voted for 2 weeks ago.
Well, okay, just stick around for a minute,
Okay.
okay?
okay. What you do is make a motion, and there, I assume will be a second, to direct the city manager to direct his staff for the people who have come in since the $2,500 or whatever the dollar amount of the registration fee, for them to get a refund of the amount over the $525. And that for in between, before this resolution is heard again, up until that time, that the fees, it would only be in the RS1, would be the old fees, the $525.
I make a motion exactly what she said. You got that, Karen?
Yeah. Is that resolution,
What about the renewals?
It's not a, did I get a second?
And that
So-
would include the renewals.
Renewal
when
rate
people
would be
come
the
in
same
for
as well
renewals.
as the new onboard rate. I mean, or like the new renewal rate will still be the 300 whatever, and the onboard rate will be the 525?
So are we keeping the fees across the board the way they were on the 19th of February, before we passed RS1 change?
As far as I think that was the intent, as
Right.
far as the
Just-
first two fees.
Yeah.
Now, the penalties and stuff would be
Right.
the new ones.
And it stays in effect until this resolution.
Yes.
That's how she stated it, Karen, you got that? Okay.
So let me just
Yeah.
ask something real quick. So,
And we have a second?
Second.
yes, we had a second. So, well, let me ask this. So, if we get people in the other areas that decide to register, that are registering now,
The others can't register yet.
there's nothing to register?
Nothing to register. They're not required to register.
Not yet.
Because they're not required.
Not until after ordinance 1695 passes.
So they can't get in early
No.
by
But-
volunteer
But then this would go into effect.
because there's nothing to get in on.
But then this would go into effect, which allows them that grace period.
Maybe this is why we should have had a discussion
$500
on this
registration.
resolution, possibly.
Do you guys want to go by consensus that we do the resolution before
So
we talk about?
basically, we're recanting what we voted on at the last meeting.
The first two fees only until after you have passed, or at least considered that next resolution. So it would only be until the next meeting.
Okay, after the vote, I want to ask consensus on maybe bringing this prior to the second reading of ordinance 1695.
Yeah, you just
would
need
like
to
that.
tell her to do that.
In the order of the agenda.
Okay, so we're saying that they can come in with the 525. Does the renewal play into effect on this?
The renewal fee would be the old renewal fee
Okay.
until we,
Those are the only two fees.
Right.
those are the only two fees.
Right.
It would- I believe the
So-
top two fees.
So you understand the renewal will be the same as it is right now, and the onboard will be the same as it is right now, and you have a 30-day grace period or a grace period until we meet?
No.
Until the next meeting,
Until the next meeting?
yes.
Okay. All right.
No, until this passes, and then this would give them an additional grace period.
Right,
Yes,
right.
but it's all going to come up at the next meeting.
Okay, so any public comment on that, that we want to make sure that your fees are lower, at least until the next reading? Okay. Go ahead, Orson.
Is this public comment on,
This is on this.
not on the agenda?
This is on what he.
Yeah, what you just talked about.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is on what he was just saying about the keeping the fees for now to the next reading.
Well, aren't you guys basically just creating the same problem of not having the funding coming in to pay for more staff if you don't raise these fees? I mean, it's
We're
kind of like,
talking
just
2
sounds
weeks.
like you,
We're talking 2 weeks, Orson.
2 weeks.
2 weeks.
Okay, well, I guess not much changes in 2 weeks, so. I don't know. This is all really, I'm gonna have to watch this over again and try to figure
We're
this
not
out.
going to not hire somebody because we don't have the
We know
money
the
for 2
revenue's
weeks.
coming in, yeah.
All right, it's not back and forth.
All right, but I will say this, can I just say one thing about fees in general, not the penalties, just fees. You know, fees are simply just passed on to the consumer. If everyone pays, if all these STR owners pay the same fee, they just pass the costs on to the people who are renting these Airbnbs. So I work,
Excuse me, what,
so I work, I mean, I'm in a healthcare industry. So I work in the, so I work in the healthcare industry that we are regulating, we pay fees. All the competition I have, we all pay the same fees. We pass those costs on to the hospitals and imaging centers that we service. It's just the cost of doing business. I mean, I assume the electricity and water fees they paid, I mean, I guess they pass those along too. If you guys are raising fees all the same, the people. I mean, I don't see what the issue is. So, I mean, anyways, so.
thank you.
Guess I'm a little confused, but I hope you guys figure this all out, because
Appreciate it.
I guess we'll all be back in 2 weeks, so see you in 2 weeks.
All right, now, when we have public comment, please, I ask you just to be respectful. If you do want to have your own public comment, you may have your 3 minutes. So does anybody else want to have public comment? Go ahead, and please be respectful. If you want to say something, you will have your turn if you wish.
Yeah, regarding, my name's Nancy Haflin. I do own a vacation rental in commercial property on Orlando Avenue in one of the little cottages. Regarding the fees, which this gentleman was just speaking about, it's very competitive in terms of the rates, and really, these vacation rentals, we don't make a ton of money. And we can't easily pass on fees to our customers because there are a lot of people who are renting at a very low rate. So I just wanted to get that clear. It's just not, you can't just go passing on, I'm going to raise my rent by $20, $30 a night. It doesn't work that way. You would have difficulty getting
would be.
Customers. So fees are, I also live in Cocoa Beach and am bothered by a vacation rental that was not registered. I don't know if it's registered now. And I needed to speak with the owner and I could not. I didn't know who it was. I do think that we do need an additional code enforcement guy or girl, definitely, to protect our residential neighborhoods. Placing fees on the vacation rental owners, I don't think is the way to do it personally, or placing additional fees. I would tend to think, I don't know why we can't take it out of a portion of the tourist tax that's paid. It's just like when I make I make investments in my property, I get a profit. I've got to put some of that back into my property in order to keep it looking great and wanting people come in. And it's the same.
I'm going to just interject real quick.
Sure.
And I'm sorry, but I want to try to keep on topic. This is just on the topic that we want to keep your fees lower for the
Yeah, I
next 2 weeks.
do want to keep my fees lower.
We don't have a tourist tax.
And that's how I would keep it lower. I wouldn't.
I just want to stay on topic for the public comment for this item.
That is
So-
how I would keep the fees lower.
Okay.
Your
We're
comment,
voting.
with all due respect, your comments were more likely to be heard when we do discuss this resolution on fees.
Okay.
Which isn't tonight.
That's not tonight.
I'll come back.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, KP.
KP Finkel, 190 Seminole Lane. Just a couple of comments on tonight. You guys need to do this among yourselves because all these propositions we're hearing tonight, I see more holes than I see stuff. You're talking about grandfathering in sums that obviously nobody else knew about. You're talking about we're trying to entice people to come in, but we're not sure if we're going to do condos or not condos. So this sounded a little unbaked to me tonight. I think one of the biggest things is why nobody understands where this is going. We hear a lot of times that the fees are to cover the work that the city has to do to register this. Put a spreadsheet together, say this is what the cost is, this is what we need to make to cover our costs divided by the 800 or 900 or whatever the gray number is, and you have a number. The number is not 2,500, I'm pretty sure on that, but show the numbers so people can understand what we're trying to do and how we're going to do it. And a couple of things to the people who own these properties. I bought here a long, long time ago, and the first 10 years while I was renting full-time annually, I was losing money on my investment. Where is the exception or the assumptions coming from that I can buy 3 units in Cocoa Beach and I can make money on that? And if 2,500 a year registration fee break your business, you're not running a good business.
I do think it's important that they're aware we don't get to talk about this outside of here.
So, and that's actually what I was about to say is the reason why it seems like we're all over the place and up in the air because of sunshine law. We don't get to call up, hey, Tim, what do you think about this? This is the only time that we get to discuss as a commission. So we're bringing up our ideas and our thoughts and our concerns now, and you get to see our whole thought process because we're not allowed to do it behind doors so that we're not collaborating, and trying to make up something that is not fair for somebody.
And I will say on Commissioner Jackson's behalf that he did bring numbers as to, I think the number came out to $746,000 a year that it costs the city to deal with Airbnbs, and broke that down into where the expenses lie. And I had asked for that, the meeting before that, to say, hey, because the state requires us to not make money on dealing with their short-term rentals. we're not allowed to make any money. And if they audit us, and I'm sure, I said this in the last meeting, if anybody that has a vacation rental wanted to sue us and say, give us the public records and prove to me that I'm paying you this amount of money and you're spending every bit of what everybody pays you on dealing with it in regulations and enforcement, we'd have to prove that. And that's what Commissioner Jackson had put together and verbally recorded, and it's in the minutes from the last meeting. So I just want to clarify that. We know we have to do the cost and balance sheet.
Okay, so that will conclude public comment.
No, thank you.
Yeah. And so we're voting on making sure that they have the opportunity to pay the lower fee until next, to the other reading. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes 5-0.
Before we adjourn, can we get consent to ask Karen to put out a CBN to say that we gave that reprieve to maybe incentivize some people to go ahead and come in and register?
And we're refunding if anybody
Well,
paid
we don't have to tell
the
you,
extra.
Dave, you're gonna tell those two people they're getting a refund, right? Yes, I can. Yeah, we don't need to put that in CBN.
He's making it for what he did.
Did we also request that the order of the agenda? Okay.
Okay, and then, did you guys want to go by consensus and bring this up before the second reading of 1695 at the next?
She's got it.
Everybody nod their head?
So are we gonna vote on the fees first, or are we gonna vote on the addition first next time then?
I think fees is what we wanted to talk about
Yeah.
first.
Okay, all right. Any general public comment, items that we didn't discuss, or, all right, we're adjourned.